actually, it adds to the British canon, it adds to the landscape. But not only that, it actually challenges that landscape.
If anything, it was, about people breaking out of those, those little boxes.
Hopefully the poem encourages the person to have an inner monologue with themselves and eventually create change in the world.
The report came out, the free verse report, and nothing happened. There was very little response, in fact, from the poetry industry. So I decided that we had to do something. So I went to see Emma at Spread the Word, and she was already thinking along those lines of having some kind of project to develop some poets who were already writing and already of a certain standard to the level at which they would start working towards publication.
The mentoring has been really the focus of the programme, and this idea of partnering these 10 Black and Asian poets with poets who are considered to be further along in their career. We've also designed a kind of development programme that's sat alongside that to support them, which has brought them together as a group.
When I started the complete works, I was at this point, I'd sort of reached a plateau in terms of where I could get with my poetry myself. I mean, I worked as an editor for a while, and I was sort of teaching workshops, and I knew that the next step for me had to be publication of my own books. We write from where we come from in a lot of ways. I'm born and bred in London, I'm mixed race, I grew up here, my mum's English, my dad's Jamaican, so I've always felt as a mixed race person that I'm almost like this space where different cultures come together, they collide, they combine, and it's about, and then you're there and you're something new.
There's the sound of the foxes mating, savage high-pitched agony. Police sirens race along the roads, screaming in gangs of threes. The low-flying chopper humming in the sky, beady lights trained on a moving criminal. Bill Herbert he's the best mentor for me. He just, we would spend 5 hours looking at the poetry. He made me discover a lot of my work. He made me discover that there was form in my work, because I think a lot of other writers engage with my work as a performance poet. But he engaged in my work. He took me seriously as a page poet, fundamentally, which was so radical.
I asked for Paul Foley, and Spread the Word was so good in getting me him, because I actually really wanted to work with him, because one, he's a master technician, but two, his poems seem really clever but simple at the same time. Not simplistic, clever and simple. Really good use of form, really good use of trying to preserve certain things in his life and culture, which is something I wanted to do.
My mentor is John Stammers, and he is very abrupt in the sense of very honest, and that's what I need for someone to look at my work. He gives me honest feedback. Over the last 2 years since I had him, he's kind of pushed me, given me goals that I can strive for.
It's not often you get to work so closely with one individual in such a detailed way over quite a long period of time, and to see ultimately the work you've done together come to fruition. So that's very satisfying.
The scheme has helped me to gave me the confidence to write about and research the Ethiopian Jewish part of myself, and to put it into writing. And that's been a real confidence booster. And also finding my own voice. I thought I'd found my voice when I joined the scheme, but my voice has changed and grown tremendously over the last 2 years.
I'd say it's a really democratic process. I think the role of a mentor is to challenge you and to push you to do better. And I'm really grateful to Michael for doing that. It doesn't mean I've agreed with everything he said, but actually to get me to think about what I'm doing and why has been really, really useful.
Janet will send me some poems. I will read them attentively. We will then discuss the poems in some detail, talk about larger shapes that sort of are hovering behind her work. She has some very ambitious plans for sequences and so on, and all of which are exciting.
I'd say the biggest thing I've obtained from being on the Complete Works is the confidence to be an African writer. A lot of poems are around me having to leave Uganda, around this separation and loss that I'm dealing with, and how actually it actually impacts my whole life. And I was able to get to the source of that by being part of the Complete Works, which I find very helpful.
We've been taken seriously as writers on this programme, and I think it's helped me be more ambitious. Since I've been on the programme, I've been doing a number of readings. One of the nicest was recently I was a guest reader on an Arvon course, and I enjoyed that very much because I was reading my work, for doing quite a long reading and talking about it with the people on the course, and yeah, it's been really nice. I've become much more confident about doing that sort of thing. And yeah, I've had a number of poems in magazines like Magma, and no, it's been good.
It led to me having greater confidence in myself as a poet, and so getting published in Modern Poetry and Translation, getting quite a lot of poems in there, and just the validation from that, and then being involved with English Pen and running some workshops with them. That's all. I just feel like I've come leaps and bounds.
One of the things that came out of my first meeting with Natalie, who was the coordinator of Complete Works, was this whole discussion about trauma and poetry, and me talking about it and Natalie saying that's a really kind of interesting idea and an interesting way of looking at things, and there's not many people do that kind of work. So it motivated me to apply for a Winston Churchill Travel Fellowship to actually do more work on that. And I was fortunate enough to get that, and I went to Cape Town and ended up spending about 6 months there doing this work and interviewing poets about that. Wounds of War. There is an I in this poem who is as silent as the startled tulips, who can't reach the imagined chime of where was it he was heading before all this dust, before all the random rocks of where was it that he came from?
When I was 14, I got shot in the throat. I did get better, but I never regained my original voice. But although I didn't get my original voice back, but what I did get back to my poetic voice.
We see in these 10 poets very different kinds of poetries emerging. So we have poetry of witness from Malaika and Seni. We have poetry of trauma as well, and from Mahfouz. And we have what Roger Robinson describes as poetry which has work to do in the world. So it's that activist notion of poetry at the heart of a society, which is quite different from what we usually see in contemporary British poetry.
So I'm really delighted that Blood Axe agreed to publish the anthology of the writer's work. It's called 10. It's edited by myself in Daljit Nagra, and there's a wonderful cover by Chris O'Feely.
Well, Caroline Duffy has described the work of the poets in the anthology, and I am going to quote it, as this thrilling, moving, challenging and inspiring new anthology which introduces 10 sparkling new talents who demonstrate the richness, energy and confidence of the poetic voice in our multicultural country. It's a joy and an important moment in publishing.
I don't think the industry has changed. So we're knocking on the door and saying, look, in a year or so's time, some of these poets will be moving towards a first collection ready for publication. So we'll have to see if any of them are taken on by the mainstream publishers. But in terms of the output of poets of colour being published in this country, I can't see any visible change at all.